Jumping over and looking at the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens here. Man, this is going to be this has just been a brutal schedule for the Cincinnati Bengals thus far, and it's going to continue to go that way going forward. So Baltimore Ravens completely handled the Washington football team last week, and I expect them to do the same again, but I do think the Bengals can put up some fight. Joe Burrow is definitely the real deal, and he's been doing really well. Glad to see him get his first win against Jacksonville last week. We'll see what they can do this week against the Ravens. Not as optimistic for them. The Ravens are favored to win this game by 13. That might be a little bit over-ambitious by Vegas there. I think they're trying to trap you here. I do think the Bengals can be a little bit more competitive than that. But the Bengals have been decent against quarterbacks, but otherwise pretty average, giving up the 13th most points to running backs, 16th to wide receivers, and 18th to tight ends. Whereas the Ravens have actually not been that great at stopping the quarterback, which is pretty interesting considering the way their defense is played. But I think a lot of that is being buoyed by the fact that Patrick Mahomes just went completely nuclear against them. So probably take that with a grain of salt. They've been good at stopping the run, decent at stopping receivers, and average or below average against stopping tight ends. But again, a lot of that coming from a couple of games there. Tight ends are obviously very interesting. We're not playing Drew Sample, even though the Ravens are number 11. In terms of who we're starting in this one, I want to start Joe Burrow, but I'm hesitant. If this game turns into a complete routing, he could throw multiple picks. We could see a situation where he's just getting sacked the entire game. So probably going to try to avoid Burrow unless you don't have any better options here. I think he's ranked like just outside my top 12, so there's probably a better option out there. But overall, not bad play, just someone I'm going to try to avoid if I can. You can't bench Joe Mixon anymore at this point. If you ever were thinking about doing so, we never told you to do that because we knew the kind of game that he had last Sunday was always in his range of outcomes, and it always will be because he's a really good running back, just playing behind a bad offensive line and a team that can get behind very quickly and have to game script him out a little bit. But, after the way he played, hopefully that will send a wake-up call to Zach Taylor and say, hey, dude, you just paid Joe Mixon a ton of money. You need to continue using him like this and get Giovanni Bernard off the field. So hopefully Joe Mixon continues with another good performance here, even in a bad game script. Tyler Boyd is pretty much unbenchable, or, unbenchable, have to start him at this point. He has been the leading target for a pass-happy offense with Joe Burrow. Everyone else here, T. Higgins, you could probably talk me into. AJ Green, I'm not playing. If anything, you probably are dropping AJ Green at this point. And then Drew Sample, I guess if you're in an absolute desperate spot, you could play him, but I'm going to try to avoid him if I can. On the Ravens side, of course, we're starting Lamar. We're going to start Marquise Brown again. Had a decent performance, although still hasn't found his way into the end zone after 4 weeks. That's been a bit disappointing, but the Bengals defense is not very good. We saw DJ Chark just absolutely obliterate them last week. Mark Andrews did lead the game with an injury for some time, but he did come back in, so not sure how serious that is, but you're going to be starting both of the options here against the poor Bengals defense. The running game has been very depressing in Baltimore, between Gus Edwards seeing more carries than Dobbins, even though Dobbins looks better on the ground. Gus Edwards isn't a bad running back by any means. Mark Ingram still looks washed, but he's the guy that's getting the goal line touches. It's just gross. You can't start any of these guys at this point. You're just waiting for this situation to kind of work itself out. Can't really drop Ingram. I know some people are advising you drop Dobbins. I just feel very nervous about that because if Ingram does ever go down to an injury, J.K. Dobbins is going to be very relevant for fantasy. So do as you may. I'm still hanging on to both of these guys, but I'm not starting either of them. And you're not starting Nick Boyle unless Mark Andrews is out. No one else here is really that interesting to me. I think this game will actually hit a little bit lower than what Vegas is thinking. I get the Ravens winning this one by 10. The Bengals covering the spread, but the Ravens still winning this one pretty decisively. Ravens 27 to the Bengals 17.